Hey everybody, CNOTE here, and welcome to the CNOTE Audio Extravaganza. This is your host, Mr. Christian Rivera, bringing you the show that's like an analogy I didn't think about yet, so I'll think about that and get back to you. Anyway, I wanted to talk today about getting out of your own head. Stuff that it's really kind of the overarching theme of a lot of stuff that I talk about to begin with. But specifically, I wanted to talk about getting out of your own head in terms of other people, meaning the assumptions we make about other people, or assuming that they care about the same things that we care about, because they simply don't. And it's a waste of our time and energy, and is often allowing us to create another excuse to procrastinate on the things that we want to do. It's pretty silly, in my opinion, to waste that time. So, without further ado, let's kick it off.
Drums, please.
Why north, west, south, side, right, yeah. Now here it is.
Alright everybody, welcome to the show. This is your host, Mr. Christian Rivera, and I'm bringing you the show that is kind of like STDs. Disgusting, you think you kind of care and you want to be thoughtful, but it doesn't. It's mostly gross. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. So, today's topic is basically about realizing that other people don't care about the things that you care about. Meaning, you are often, you as in me, as in we, are often concerned with things that the perceptions of people on us that don't really add up, that we're making a lot of assumptions about what people think about us and think about our way of being, our way of approaching things. I think we are way too concerned with what other people think, generally speaking, and it's why it's a topic I keep talking about, because it's not something that goes away. No matter how much of a badass you are, you still are concerned one way or the other about what one or two people think in your life at very minimum. You know? And truth is, they actually don't care. They don't. They could maybe project it sometimes or pretend to, but after they're done actively listening to you, they got their own shit to worry about. And that's really the long and short of it. I could end this podcast here. Bye. That's it. They don't care. Move on. And that's kind of where it's at. I'm just gonna probably end up tangenting a few times because I don't know. There's nothing else to say about it. As I take a drink of water to regroup. I attempted to talk about this. There's an episode on my YouTube channel called No One Cares that I think was misconstrued because there was not a lot of positive feedback on that. I don't think anyone likes the idea that no one cares. That makes sense, right? I mean, we want people to care, which is why we probably think so much that people care, but they don't. Because we actually want them to. We want them to care about our problems. We want them to be invested. We want them to be actively thinking about what we're going through. And for me, I'm the opposite. I actually don't want anyone thinking about my shit. I want to be the sole proprietor of my nonsense so that I can deal with it. I don't want anyone else out there caring or concerned or worried about my stuff, because that creates like a whisper down the lane game of assumptions. That kind of becomes gossip at that point. I basically just want, I accept and appreciate that people can be concerned in the moment, that they may want to offer their advice in the moment, but after that moment's gone, they have their own stuff to worry about. This applies to all ages. Every area of life, there are people that are may be momentarily concerned about what's going on, but they don't understand the full breadth of it. Therefore, they can't give proper advice, and they don't actually care. And I'm not saying they should care. I'm saying that in the grand scheme of things, you have to take more ownership, and you have to care the most, because you're the only one that is living with yourself 100% of the time. Trying to take more pauses. Is that dramatic? Is that too much? I'm trying to actively not do like the ums and ahs and stuff as much, so it's making me take more dramatic pauses. Dramatic pause. And I just ummed, damn it, and odd. Oh well, whatever. Learning experiences, trying new things. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a minute to think about what I want to talk about for the rest of the segment, but essentially, no one really cares, and that's fine. It's not like a bad thing. I'm not trying to say it in like some existential, like nobody cares about your existence sort of way. I think that's what immediately people go to, and maybe I'll talk about the differences in that.
If you've been dying to start that podcast about doves, or about your favorite jacket, or about a long-lost love, or a murder mystery about a cat who murdered everybody, you can start it now on Spotify for podcasters. I've been on Anchor for a long time, and now it is officially Spotify for podcasters, and it has been a platform that has been growing for forever. And I love it, and I still use it to this day, and it has hosted this podcast for 500 plus episodes now. So I highly recommend it. It is free to use. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. I'm literally on my bed recording on my, like the phone is on the bed, and I'm just talking, and it's not that complicated. And then you can distribute your podcast on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. So video podcasts are available too if you want to show your pretty face and have people see you. You can do all that too. So just do it. It's totally free. No catch. Give it a try. Spotify for podcasters. Let's go.
The all-new Toyota Prius looks nothing like you've ever seen before. You just gotta see it.
Yeah, okay. This is going on the radio, so you're going to need to describe the all-new Prius to people.
Oh, okay, yeah. Vroom, swoosh,
Use your words, please.
Oh, got it. Here we go, wowzers!
I give up.
The all-new Prius. It's indescribable now. Toyota. Let's go places. Vehicle inventory may be limited. Check with your Toyota dealer.
Yeah, so when I say no one cares, people get a little upset about that because they assume like, oh, my mom cares about me, my dad cares about me, my sister cares about me, my friends care about me, and that's fine. They can care about you as a person, but they don't care about your problems specifically, especially when it comes to making excuses. Like when you think about your job, for instance, if you are not getting your work done, your boss is not really going to care about the multitude of excuses you make if you're not getting it done in time. Like, it has to get done one way or another, or they're going to have somebody else do it, and you'll likely get fired. Like, you have to be cognizant of that and not just continue to make excuses or, present more problems than you actually have. Or, basically what I'm saying, your problems are not an excuse to not do things, to not you can't use your problems as an excuse, I should say. You still have to take ownership in some sense or another, even though these problems are things that are surmounting, and you might have mental health issues, and you might have some difficulties with like divorce or moving things. Like, I'm talking about my own stuff right now, really. And one way that I'm able to do that is I have these conversations with my coworkers, with my boss, to let them know that, yes, there are going to be these moments where I'm going to have mental difficulty or I'm going through this stuff. So, Just understand that I might look a certain way or feel a certain way, but it's still my responsibility to get those things done. If I don't get that stuff done, they're not going to be like, oh, he's just depressed, let's move the deadline. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, either it's your responsibility to say, we need to put someone else on this because I just don't have it right now, I'm sorry. Or to let them know that you're going through something so that maybe you should take on a little bit less for a little while or something. Like, either way, it's your responsibility. Like, they're not going to be actively looking at you and judging you and making that judgment for you. Most of the time, people wouldn't notice that sort of thing when it comes to mental health and stuff like that. Most of the time when I've talked about that stuff to my coworkers or my friends, like, they're like, I couldn't even tell. I have no idea. I didn't know what was going on. And that's when I realized it's up to me to take responsibility for that. It's up to me to let people know what I can or can't do, or what deadlines I can meet or which ones I can't. Ultimately, from a business standpoint, like, people need to know that stuff so that they can make adjustments and you can help them make adjustments. I hope that makes sense. It's ultimately, it's not their responsibility, and they're not going to care enough to make it their responsibility. Maybe not caring is not the best way to frame it. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that it's your responsibility. Everything in your life is your responsibility. You have to take ownership of it. Nobody else is going to care more than you should. So even if they're there to help you, or you ask someone to give you a little bit of guidance, and people will help you in those instances, in that moment, over the long term, people aren't going to care as much as you can and should care about your own stuff. Just as much as you're not actively thinking about someone else's stuff constantly. It's just not the way humans work. So don't waste your energy on that. That's all I'm saying. So think about no one caring in the grander sense as well. Organizationally, corporate-wise, job-wise, government-wise. Like, if you have a parking ticket and you couldn't pay it because you have a lot of personal stuff going on, like, the man isn't going to care. They're just going to tack on more fees. So you got to kind of eliminate that part. You have to find a way to either get the ticket expunged somehow, or like pay it and deal with it and move on and handle your responsibilities. Corporations aren't going to care about the little issues that are going on. Business is business. I think a lot of people take too much ownership of their jobs too, especially if you're working like retail or fast food or something like that, where like a lot of people get all high and mighty about like, the store's going to fall apart without me. No, a national chain is not going to fall apart without you, Susan. Like, relax. It's cool. Like, you get off your high horse, so, take ownership and fix your problems, because ultimately you're the only one that's responsible for it. So that's basically where I'm at. That's what that is. So I'm going to get going because this morning has moved really fast and I am way behind on things, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's like an idea that I'm still kind of workshopping, this whole no one cares aspect. I think it's like, it's something that's a little bit more clear and succinct when you just kind of like say it to someone in person, and like people are just like, man, like, no one cares. Stop it. Stop. None of this matters. None of this stuff that you're complaining about, that you care about, that you're worried so much about, that is keeping you from doing things, is just excuses to mitigate your fears or your need for perfectionism or whatever that is. Every little thing, I find that every little thing, no matter what avenue you take it to, comes back to yourself and your perceptions of fear and yourself and your ability and your talent, your ability to do something, your perception of your ability to do something. You know, you feel like you're not good enough, so you don't even bother trying, and that's nonsense. You just got to throw stuff out there. Get out of your own head. Remove that filter. Actively work on removing that filter, because you just need to do things. You need to get out there and just try it. Like, I think we instill more consequences in our heads than we actually think there are. And if you're not sure, most of the times you can ask someone. You can say, hey, if I did this, would this be a problem? It's not that hard. So many people stop themselves from even asking a basic question. I had a friend come to me, and her boss is like the sweetest person, one of my best friends in the world. And she came to me and said, like, I wanted to kind of try to leave early on Friday to go take a coworker to lunch that is leaving the company, but I'm afraid that she'll say no. What do you think she'll say? I'm like, I don't know. You have to ask her. Like, what is that? Like, just ask. Just put it out there. Like, there's not, like, the rejection aspect of it is nonsense. Like, don't worry so much about it. And because that rejection is not, like, a big deal. Most rejection is, like, not as big of a deal as we think it is. You have to, maybe it's an emotional intelligence thing. You know, you have to work on removing some emotional attachment from some things so you don't get so heavily burned by so many things. But ultimately, like, it'll be fine. You just try something else and you just keep moving. My life is nowhere near what I thought it was going to be, but it's also on a path to be a different great thing than I initially thought it was going to be. So I feel really good about that. Anyway, so that's going to end the podcast. I appreciate you listening to the CNOTE Audio Extravaganza. If you'd like to continue this discussion, please give me a call in or hit me up at Rival My Design on all the social channels, and I will catch you next time.